Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Es Una Final podcast. Today is going to be an all Real Madrid podcast. We, the two Real Madrid fans, me and Charlie, are here to preview Real Madrid's first game of the season. Real Madrid are taking a trip to Alaves to face them. All three of Real Madrid's first three games are away games because of the renovation work at the Bernabeu. So we are hoping that the team would return to the Bernabeu sometime mid-September. But before that, we have these away games starting with Alaves, and we're going to take a deep dive into Alaves, into Real Madrid, try to dissect how these teams are going to play, what can we expect these games. But before all of that, welcome, Charlie. Welcome to the show. And how are you doing?
I am good. I am very excited for the beginning of the season. I am ready to see how this team plays under Carlo Ancelotti. And yeah, I feel like there's a bit of nervous energy going on around me a bit because I don't know how we're going to do. I don't know our odds for the season. And hopefully this weekend should set a good precedent for the coming season.
Yes. And for me, I think I feel weirdly liberated thinking that there are so many things going wrong at this club at the moment. There is not much that can happen worse at this point. So I feel kind of weirdly liberated from that point of view. Yes, I am excited, and I do agree on that nervous energy part. Well, it's a new manager. Technically not a new manager, but a new era under Carlo Ancelotti, and this is definitely way different than the team that he was with in 2015. So yeah, excited for the game. Yep. So beginning with Ancelotti's press conference today, I honestly didn't feel a lot different from Zidane's press conferences, apart from it he didn't say es una final. He didn't say es una final, but apart from that, it's I think Zidane's press conferences were molded by Ancelotti in a big manner. We even have that photo that Zidane's taking notes in one of Ancelotti's press conferences in 2013-14 when he was the assistant. So and a lot of Zidane things are actually molded by Ancelotti's coaching philosophy. The press conferences are not an exception. So he talked a lot about how he's not going to talk about any other player apart from his team. Mbappe was brought up, Richarlison was brought up, and he just refused to speak about them. He said that he still has a very good relationship with the PSG president. I don't know if he can help us with that. But the big talking point in Ancelotti's press conference, Charlie, was I think Odegaard, who was set to leave for Arsenal, as it seems. What's your take on this entire situation? I think we can discuss both where the club is doing something wrong and also where Odegaard is being a bit impatient as well. Not a bit, probably a lot impatient as well. But let's hear your take on the entire Odegaard situation.
Okay, I'll preface this by saying this is my standpoint on what's going on. This is how I think everything's going. It seems like Odegaard doesn't feel like he's too valued, and he doesn't have Carlo Ancelotti's trust at the club, which could be warranted. I don't know. I mean, given his preseason performances, we haven't seen anything too much like his La Real loan stint, or even with his Arsenal loan stint last year. So I feel like he feels that he's not being valued by the club. He doesn't think he's going to get too much play time, and that's obviously what every player at his level wants, a player with his potential. So obviously he wants out, and he wants to go back to Arsenal where he was valued pretty highly, and Real Madrid are saying, we just won't gatekeep you from doing that. That's my standpoint. There obviously could be other things going on in the background with club management and things like that. That's how I think it is. And that just really, really disappoints me from a perspective of a fan. I mean, Odegaard was one of the most highly touted youngsters in the world for the last 5 or so years. I mean, he made his Real Madrid debut at 16, I believe. I mean, he was an absolutely incredible talent and still is, but the fact that he's been showing up and playing well over these past loan stints, and that he's not willing to even fight it out for a full season at Real Madrid. I mean, he had the last half season and the beginning of the 2020-2021 season, and then he took off on a loan to Arsenal, but he's not willing to stick it out and try and fight for a spot again. I mean, that's tough. And for a player, I feel like all players want to reach the top level with the best teams, and we saw Arsenal lost to Brentford today, I don't think they're a top team as Real Madrid is. So you'd think after all of his loan stints and building up to coming to the highest tier and trying to perform at the highest level and compete in Champions League. I just don't understand where his head's at right now. And it's tough to swallow as a fan that you've been shown this excellent player that's all just been building up to coming back to your club after so many loans, and he's playing his best football, and now he just wants to leave because he's not want to fight for his place. And especially with Toni Kroos's injury and Dani Ceballos are injured. I mean, it's open for him to take his spot here, and he's not fighting for it. It's tough to swallow.
Yep. So my point of view here is probably going to be a bit more elaborate. If I go back to 2015, when he was signed for the club, I think the Real Madrid management has a lot to do with this entire situation. When we're signing young players, we are giving them that impression that they are not dispensable. Like, probably dispensable is a very strong word, but they're not benchable or something like that. The Viniciuses or the Odegaards. If you're giving an 18-year-old or 16-year-old that feeling when he's joining the club, of course he's gonna feel like a diva. I think the club did this wrong by making these players feeling like these, I think one of the reputed Spanish reporter said that Odegaard always feels like he's the groom. He's the groom of a wedding whenever he walks into a room. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, Ronaldo is a person like this, and like he's one of the greatest players of all time. But you have to earn your right to be at that place. You can't expect that to be like that from the beginning of your career. And I think in a lot of cases, Real Madrid management is at fault to make these players feel like this. If I bring in the example of Ilaix Moriba with Barcelona, this guy hailed from Barcelona B. He earned asked for a raise at a time when Barcelona was significantly struggling financially, and Laporta just said, all right, you're out. Like, we don't have time for this. But then again, Barcelona is also bringing up players like Pedri, and probably even now Yusuf Demir is coming up as well. And it's not that Real Madrid doesn't have precedence for other loyal youngsters. Asensio stayed regardless of his performances. He always stayed. Like, he never said that, okay, I demand the starting position. He was happy with whatever role he was given. And I think the biggest issue I have with it is that I don't consider Martin Odegaard, with all of his performances with La Real and Arsenal, I don't consider him as a better player than Fede Valverde in any manner. They could be equal, but I don't see him being a better footballer at his career at this stage than Fede Valverde. So if Fede Valverde can, he can see it that Modric and Kroos are not going to be here forever. They're probably going to be here for at best a couple of more years. Then it's all yours. Like, you can create a legacy like Modric's and Kroos's if you wait just a little bit longer. I do understand players are not necessarily fans all the time like how we are. But this lack of drive in Odegaard, I think this was instilled by Real Madrid itself when he first came to the club. And also, if I'm pretty sure, Charlie, you remember, I think Ancelotti wrote in his book that Florentino Perez asked to Ancelotti to start 16-year-old Odegaard in 3 games, like when Real Madrid were fighting for 2 trophies at the end of the season in 14-15. And Ancelotti said, no, I'm not. He can become a Ballon d'Or winner in the future. I don't care, but I'm not going to start him in 3 games. But he's still he substituted in Odegaard for Ronaldo in that 1 game. So if the president asks a manager like Ancelotti that kind of stuff for a 16-year-old, Ancelotti's frustration, I think, is also stemming from way before with Odegaard. And when he sees this player that, okay, he's not ready to fight for his position even after 5-6 years, then he thinks that he deserves a starting position over the existing midfielders. I'm pretty sure Ancelotti is not going to count on him. And also the players that he's trying to bench are Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. There is no midfielder any coach would bench. Any coach would play if they have Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. He has to understand that. And with Real Madrid's injury history, it's a long season. I think he definitely would have gotten more opportunities than under Ancelotti than what he did under Zidane. And even with Zidane, I have tried to explain it to so many people that when Odegaard suffered his second injury under Zidane, before that, Odegaard played 55% of all of Real Madrid's game time. Then he got injured, and like Zidane didn't like something, and he didn't start him for like 4 or 5 games, and then he just went off to Arsenal. So this entire thing, I think the club and the player is at fault. I'll just finish up quickly on this matter, just saying one more thing. And also at the same time, I think the club understands that there are no buyers for Isco at the moment. Odegaard is the only midfielder they can basically cash in on at the moment. With Ceballos' injury, no one's going to buy Ceballos either. No one's going to buy Isco either. So if the player is kind of reluctant over game time and everything, all right, let's sell him. He's the easier target. So all in all, not an ideal bringing up culture from Real Madrid, and not an ideal Real Madrid, mentality from Odegaard. This entire thing like frustrates me so much.
I'm 100% with you. It's really tough, and that's a great point about how the club treats these young players, because I just hadn't considered that. I mean, I felt like every time Odegaard came back from each one of his loans, it was just Real Madrid is yours to take, and maybe that's not the mentality that at least the fans should have with these players. It should be you still have to fight for your place no matter how good you are, no matter how well you played with these past clubs. You have to earn your place in Real Madrid. That might be how it has to be now, that no one has earned the right to play for this. You have to, or no one is just given the right, you have to earn it. That might be how it has to be now.
Exactly. All right. Yep. Yeah. It actually channeled quite nice the Odegaard discussion. Some of the other things that Ancelotti discussed was obviously regarding Gareth Bale and Real Madrid's Belgian player. Okay, so about the Belgian player, I'm actually curious to find out myself how far I can take this, but I've taken a decision. Whenever like he scores his next goal, I'm gonna start calling him by his name again. Okay. But before that, if it's tomorrow, I'm gonna stop calling him the Belgian player from tomorrow. But you understand who I'm talking about? It's Belgium's captain,
not the goalkeeper.
And not the goalkeeper. Yeah.
Yes.
So Ancelotti talked about that he's fit, and I was actually checking out a couple of training videos, and he might actually start tomorrow. I don't know, because like he was playing with the orange bibs on. He was playing with Luka Jovic, Modric, Rodrigo, and Casemiro, all the guys who are definite to start tomorrow. And he looked pretty sharp. I don't know if he's going to start. But Ancelotti spoke about Gareth Bale as well, that he's a fantastic player. And also he put like much emphasis on that Real Madrid has a nice mixture of youth and experience in this team. But Charlie, do you actually think that he's going to count on youth as much he is stating right now, Ancelotti?
I feel like, first off, the youth and experience Real Madrid has both at the very ends of the spectrum. The experience they have is very old experience, all like 30-plus-year-old players. And their youth players are all so young with such little top-tier experience, which makes me think that yes, they will count on some of the youth because they'll be forced to through injuries. Like I am absolutely sure Miguel Gutierrez will start tomorrow because he's our only left back option at this point. So now Marcelo is injured. So I think, it'll come to a point in the season where Ancelotti will be forced, whether or not he decides to earlier on in the season, just out of what he likes on the team sheet, how well the team plays together. I think there will be definite times where we will have to trust the youth because there will be no other options. And now they've had talks that if Odegaard does end up leaving, they could promote Sergio Ribas permanently to the first team, which is something that I would partially like to see because I think he's a very good player, but also know that if he spends the season with Castilla, he will get more time and will get more time under Raul to develop. So, I mean, that could be some more youth we see the Ancelotti going for. I mean, I don't know how much time he'd end up playing for the first team, but I'd love to see him get some time, but I don't know if promoting him to the first team would be the best route to developing his skill set to be the best player he can be.
Yeah, and there are also like a couple of logistical issues as well, because teams cannot register more than 25 first-team players. And at this rate, like how I'm seeing this right now, if Real Madrid registers Ceballos and Vallejo, even if they sign Mbappe, they can't register him unless they let someone go. So this is this is a logistical nightmare, I think. And La Liga with 5 substitutions and COVID and everything, I think La Liga should change these rules as well. Like it should be at least 28 or 30 for the first team.
Absolutely.
And with all the kit number things as well, like Real Madrid unable to register Odegaard at the moment, and as Ancelotti said. So I think just for that reason, Arribas might not end up being registered with the first team. Same goes for Miguel. I think Miguel is not counted within those 25 at the moment. I might be wrong. So yep, and I do agree that for them to stay with Castilla definitely would allow them to have more game time, and also they've shown that whenever they're called up to the senior team, they can rise to the occasion. But that's that. From Ancelotti's press conference. If we go and discuss a little bit about Alaves right now, I have some interesting facts and stats from our friend on Twitter, Captain Koke. He did a brilliant thread on all the La Liga teams, breaking down each team based on different criteria. And there I found some very interesting stats on Alaves, actually. So their manager Calleja, he took over the team in April. His Villarreal stint was like it wasn't completely ideal, but he's done a reasonable job with Alaves, I would say, like keeping them in the top flight. There are some things like he improved Alaves' XG a lot from XG per shot, actually a lot, from 0.071 to 0.13, and even in defense, like their XG against also decreased under him. So he has done good work on both fronts in that regard. And this thread also mentions Alaves' incoming players. There is Facundo Pellistri, Mahmoud Alouam, Florian Lejeune, Ivan Martin, Manu Garcia, Tony Moya, and Taichang Hara. They have had some departures. I think Bourjouy, former Castilla player, he was with Alaves. He no longer is at the moment. What is your overview of this Alaves team, Charlie?
Well, I pulled some stuff as well from Y-Scout, and my biggest takeaway from Alaves is that they are just wildly inconsistent, even under Javi Calleja. I mean, he obviously did bits for them, keeping them from relegation last season after he came in, but still, they are a team that lets their opposition dictate how the match goes. So if the other team decides to keep all of the possession, they will sit back and let them just hold possession, try and sit into a low block. If the other their opposition tries to high press them, they'll try and be more press resistant, a bit more fluid in their play style, and try and counterattack a bit more. So the one thing that is always consistent, though, with Alaves is they have a crossing-based offense, which will be very interesting to see because the match will be won or lost in Real Madrid's penalty area. Because Jose Lu, Alaves' most prolific striker, I assume they will play in a 4-4-2 as well, so there'll be 2 strikers up top. That's just my assumption. Not sure.
With Lucas Perez, Jose Lu and Lucas Perez up top? Okay.
That is my guess. And those 2 are both very dangerous out of the air. Jose Lu, much more. I believe he averaged... I have it right here. 56% of his aerial duels won in the penalty area last season, so that's quite good. I mean, obviously, Real Madrid do have Eder Militao, who I think that'll be the biggest matchup tomorrow. Eder Militao against Jose Lu, because Militao averaged a aerial duel win rate of 72.2%, which is one of the highest in La Liga last season. He's just aerial dominant. It's insane. He's a fantastic player out of the air. And David Alaba isn't too bad either. He wins 68.3% of his aerial duels in the penalty area. So that's something we do have going for us this season. We have an excellent cross-resistant defense. So that'll be something to really look for. So Alaves, other than that, all of their other metrics are pretty much all over the place, depending on the team that they're playing. So how high they press their opponents, I don't assume they'll press Real Madrid too much, which is what we saw from Javi Calleja's side last season. They will sit in mostly and try to play in a low block and absorb Real Madrid's offensive pressure. And they will try and either hit us on the counterattack or try and get the ball in short spells and try and move it around the penalty area until they can cross and try and hit us out and use their strikers' movement in the penalty area to try and trick out our center backs and midfielders to where they can get themselves into good scoring positions. So like I said, our penalty area is where the game will be won and lost tomorrow, because we saw last season Alaves can nick goals against these big teams. I believe they did to Barcelona last year, and I believe we also drew with them early on in our first match.
Yeah, I think we lost that. It was, I think,
you're right. It was 2-1.
Wasn't Pablo Machin at Alaves at some point of time last season?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we lost earlier last season to them. So Alaves are obviously proven against big, larger sides. So this will be someone to look for, and I really feel like this game could come very close, especially if Karim Benzema doesn't end up playing, which I know that's in the talks right now with how his COVID recovery and how much he's been in training. So I think his performance tomorrow, if he even plays, that's the biggest question, and that'll determine how Real Madrid does tomorrow.
Yep, that's actually a nice chance for us to get into Real Madrid's starting lineup discussions. The goalkeeper position is obviously like set. Courtois will most certainly play. In defense, it looks like that it's going to be Lucas Vazquez, Militao, Alaba, and Miguel. But Odriozola being in the team sheet, like being in the squad, kind of worries me. And now that you mentioned that how Alaves is going to be a cross-based team, and in that regard, Odriozola's physicality, I don't think that is enough. No, so, and Ancelotti actually started him against Rangers. Yeah, you're saying.
Yeah, he's just an atrocious far post defender as well.
Yeah,
I really hope he doesn't play tomorrow, because he's crossing, him trying to defend the back post, and strikers trying to get behind him, getting into his blind spot. He's just atrocious with that. That's one of his weak points as a defender. So, I like him. He's a great player, but I really hope he's not playing tomorrow.
Yes, I share that sentiment, and I don't mind seeing Miguel playing tomorrow. But I kind of feel like if this was not Alaves, with due respect to Alaves, if this was a Champions League game against Bayern Munich and these were the players that we had in our roster, I would probably play Lucas Vazquez as right back, Nacho and Militao as the center backs, and Alaba as left backs. But yeah, that's probably a discussion for another day.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But I don't think Ancelotti is going to do that, because he has given enough game time to Miguel in the preseason game. So I think he's going to stick with Miguel tomorrow. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be Miguel as well. And he did impress in the Rangers match quite well, playing with Marcelo. Obviously, Marcelo's not in, but I mean, he did quite well. And I think Ancelotti will use him. The other thing I could see is Nacho go in for Militao, just based on how much time Militao's had with the squad after getting back from his time with Brazil. I don't think it'll happen, but I mean, it could be something to watch out for.
Yep. Well, I actually think it can very well happen. Again, just based on the game time Nacho has enjoyed in the preseason, and Militao has just joined the team. But then again, with Ancelotti, he doesn't really ease players in like Zidane used to do. I remembered he played Gareth Bale the day after he signed. He started Gareth Bale the day after he signed for Real Madrid. I think with one training session he started Gareth Bale. So I don't know if he still does that with his teams. We'll find out tomorrow. But the midfield, I think, is also pretty set. It's going to be Isco, Modric, and Casemiro.
Absolutely agree.
There could be one wild change with Valverde coming in for Isco, but I don't really see that happening. That could happen, but I think Isco, Modric, and Casemiro is the midfield he's going to play.
Yeah, I think Isco is going to be necessary for trying to break down Alaves' low block that I assume they'll be playing when we're in possession. So this will be a big test for him to see how this season is going to go, because if he can really impress tomorrow, then I think Odegaard will be for sure out the door. If Isco shows any bit of promise, then his spot, I think, will be solidified as a key player in the team. And also, then he could switch up Ancelotti. He could force Ancelotti to switch up the formation to try and include him more once Toni Kroos gets back as well. Something like a 4-4-2 diamond that we saw with Zidane a bit. So this game tomorrow is a big, big test for Isco. And I really hope he comes out and performs well, because if he gets back to his form of many years ago, this season the trajectory will totally change for Real Madrid this season.
Yeah, I agree. And the forward line, I'm thinking Bale, Luka Jovic, and Rodrigo to start, and then if like Real Madrid can score first or not score first, even if it's like Hail Mary time, then Ancelotti brings in Benzema and Belgium's captain, and probably even Vinicius at some time. We have like an astounding number of wingers in this team. Like even you can just make 5 substitutions out of the wingers, I think. There is Vinicius, there is Asensio. I don't think everyone from Asensio, Vinicius, and Belgium's captain would get game time tomorrow, but I expect some of them to do that.
Yeah, I think Bale and Rodrigo are the pretty obvious choices, and I think Bale's ability to cut in and shoot from range will be big as trying to get Alaves' defense to step out and pressure these players our players earlier, so that we can try and adjust their line a bit to try and play in behind and shift them. Maybe Luka Jovic could take advantage of some movement between their center backs to try and adjust to Bale's movement. And Rodrigo, along the same lines, not really cutting in and shooting, but I mean, he will cut in and try to get the ball into the penalty area by dribbling, which is something that he's done quite a bit in preseason, which has been awesome, because any sort of carrying into the penalty area is by far the best form of chance creation, in my opinion. I mean, it draws all of the players to you, which frees up space for others, which is exactly what we need from Luka Jovic. For him to find spaces behind the center backs, to try and get into their blind spots in the penalty area, where we can be able to find him, because he's never been utilized correctly with Real Madrid. And I hope Ancelotti can do good by him and try and get the best out of Luka Jovic, because, and like Isco, this could be his season if he's utilized correctly. He could go off and put in a 15-goal season easily, and either be their player coming off the bench or be someone in a starting role in a partnership with Karim Benzema. Because he worked very well with a hold-up play striker back in Eintracht Frankfurt, and Benzema is obviously very, very good playing with his back to goal. So if utilized correctly, those two could become a great partnership, I think. But that comes totally down to Ancelotti and his play style and his choice of personnel.
Yes, and he kind of seems like pretty much set on a 3-man forward line at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fits Benzema and Jovic in there. It has to be, I think, if there are 3 players playing up front, it has to be either Benzema or Jovic, and it's always going to be Benzema when Benzema is fit. But yeah, and for Jovic, I think all his problems are going to go away if he just starts scoring goals for Real Madrid. At this stage, I feel like that Jovic gets credited for doing a lot of good things off the ball and on the ball, as you said, that those layoffs to the wings and creating those blind spots behind the defense. But the thing is, Real Madrid are not going to look towards him to do those things when Benzema is fit. Real Madrid is only going to look towards him to score goals if the team is lacking goals, which I think is a very big possibility once again that this team is going to lack goals. So I think Jovic should work on his confidence or whatever he needs to work on to start banging in some goals by hook or by crook. It can be headers, volleys, whatever, man. Just score some goals. Everything's smooth from that point on. But unless he starts scoring goals, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to take any game time off Benzema.
Yeah, and I would really hope to see Sergio Ribas a bit tomorrow. Maybe
he's not in the squad though.
Is he not?
No,
I thought he was.
Blanco is in the squad tomorrow.
Yeah, because I mean, I would just love to see some pace in that striker role, because neither Jovic nor Benzema are too fast. They're not too quick off their first step, which Lejeune and LaGuardia, Alaves is most likely center back pairing tomorrow. Neither of them are too quick in their first step. Their acceleration isn't too good. So someone with a bit of pace who can get a step out on them would be great to have. Someone who can maybe get in behind, which is not something Benzema or Luka Jovic do too well. Maybe Rodrigo's that man. I don't know. But something like that could be necessary on counterattacks or things like that against Alaves, because that could be a pretty easy way to take advantage of their slow center back pairing.
Yep. And one other thing, it's difficult to guess anything from a tactical perspective for Real Madrid, because they don't release anything as far as training videos are concerned. Quite rightly so. You don't want to give any secrets or something. But I don't know if you got the chance to catch that video of Thomas Tuchel before the Champions League final, Chelsea were doing some like weird voodoo stuff with 7 versus 8, but like it was obviously a tactical routine. But we see those things from other clubs from time to time, even like fan videos or something. But Real Madrid never actually release anything of that sort. But one thing that I noticed, whatever training videos or clips that we can get our hands on, is that Ancelotti is definitely, he's going to be playing at a different pace than Real Madrid played in the last couple of seasons. It's going to be a bit more fast paced, the less passes for switches and stuff like that. And for writing the Ancelotti article for Managing Madrid, I was actually watching his tactical videos for his previous clubs, and his Napoli stint, especially his first year at Napoli, really enticed me. And I see a lot of that at Real Madrid, even in the game versus Milan, changing the 4-3-3 shape into a 2-3-5 or a 2-4-4 shape in offense, two lines with the two central midfielders, creating kind of a temporary double pivot. I saw Casemiro and Isco doing that a lot with Marcelo and Vasquez on the two sides, creating 1-4 and then the other 4 with the 4 attackers. So this is something I'm really interested actually to see tomorrow as well, what kind of shape he comes up with. And even like speaking about it is making me excited to watch him, because the Ancelotti Real Madrid we saw in 2015 is so much different than this. That team guaranteed 4 goals almost every game, regardless. Like apart from a few games, they would always score a ton of goals. There was a fixed template. You put it to the wide areas, give it into the box for Ronaldo, he will do the rest. But a lot of things would have to change for this team. The next thing, Charlie, I want to bring on, I think this is worthwhile talking about, is Dani Carvajal. There was a article about him not about him, but like on Real Madrid on The Athletic, and they mentioned that Real Madrid is not happy with his physique at all, and even it goes on to say that they think his physical condition is pathetic. So if a player's physical condition is pathetic, it's an unfortunate event in itself. But why do you renew that player for until 2025? I do know that Carvajal is one of the cornerstones of Real Madrid. He's probably going to be one of the captains as well. But do you see a pattern of lack of foresight here? I have nothing against Carvajal. He's one of my most favorite players. But if a player's physique is that bad, and do you not just start thinking about the future a bit, and now you renew him for 2025? How do you see that?
Well, I think you gotta just relate this back to the Achraf Hakimi bit. I mean, bring him into the club and signing him to a long-term contract felt like just the easy move. That was what everyone would have done in Real Madrid's situation. Obviously, they had financial books that they had to settle, and selling him paid off a bit of their debt. But I don't know. I mean, Carvajal is on his day is obviously one of the best right backs in the world.
No, for me, he's the best right back in the world when he's fit, especially defensively, offensively, how he can control that area. He's definitely the best right back of the world after Dani Alves. He's the best for me. But with his physique, that's where I'm really concerned. Go on, please.
And especially with the injury issues he's had in the last season or so. I mean, I would never sign a player to a new contract when they are injured. That as a club official, that just seems off to me. I would let them get a couple games under their belt after they have recovered from their injury and are back to playing. But because you just never know what's going to happen with the injury. And I would give him a bit of grace because he is injured at the moment. Maybe he will get back to his fitness as he comes more towards returning. So I wouldn't be too worried about that at the moment. But like you said, renewing him till 2025, that's obviously quite a bit of time. That's 4 years away at this point. So he's tied down to a mightily sized contract at the moment. I agree with you wholeheartedly that that's just not the best decision from the club, which they've had a track record going right now of not making the best decisions. And this one, while they've been centric of moving players off the books, this feels like an odd choice to tie down for quite a bit of time. And like you said, I love Danny Carvajal. He's one of my favorite players. He's one of the best right backs in the world on this day, like we just said. But I just don't know if he will be back to his normal self after he returns from this injury, and no one can possibly know that. So holding him down for 4 more years is not the best choice, in my opinion. I would have let him get some games and then renew him if he shows that he's going back to his prior self. That would have been my course of action.
And good right backs have become such a rarity at this point. I mean, like I think 50 of them play at Manchester City itself, and like they have Walker, they have Cancelo. I think they're trying to buy Trippier or something too. I don't know what they want at this point, but so PSG has Hakimi. There are not a lot of other good right backs available. Like Trent Alexander-Arnold, I don't think he's ever going to leave Liverpool in his life. So we had a player like
I think he's the guy. If they were going to try and bring someone in, I think he would have been, because Ancelotti seems to just be over the moon with how he was for AC Milan last year, and he wanted him quite badly apparently over this summer, which it obviously didn't happen because Manchester United are recognizing how good he is and tying him down. But yeah, I mean, signing Carvajal to 4 more years doesn't feel like the right choice. Sorry, go on.
No worries. And also, like, Emerson Royal was one of my most favorite right backs last season.
Absolutely.
I absolutely hate that he plays for Barcelona now, and he was like brought up by Barcelona. But yeah, I think there's just like so many things that don't make sense anymore at Real Madrid, like not looking at La Liga talent at all. There's like so much talent available in La Liga that they can look at. We're always looking at other leagues. We're either looking at, as you said, like at the extremes of the spectrum, we're either looking at really raw talent or we're looking at the Mbappes and Haalands, whereas like other profiles can also fit into the team and help the team. Yep. Yeah. On that note, I think we've covered pretty much everything about the Alaves game and a few things outside of the Alaves game as well. Anything else you would like to finish on, Charlie? You have anything else?
The one thing that I want to watch for tomorrow is because, like I said, I think Alaves will line up in a 4-4-2. I believe Ancelotti will line up in a 4-3-3, most notably because that's what I think he'll do for the most of the season. But also, so we can have a 1-man advantage in midfield, because the 4-4-2 will give them an advantage on the wings over us and on the flanks. So looking for how we try to control the midfield tomorrow is something I'm very keyed in on, because that's obviously one of the biggest keys to winning the game and becoming a top-level team. Can you control the midfield, especially without the team's metronome, Toni Kroos? So that's what I'm most looking for tomorrow. And maybe Odegaard could have been one of those guys to try and dominate the midfield with his insane technical abilities, but I don't know. So that's what I'm looking for tomorrow. And I'd be interested to see what you're looking forward to most or looking at most tomorrow. What's the one thing you'll be keyed in on?
Well, again, I want to call his name as soon as possible. So I want Belgium's captain to score as soon as possible so that I can live this curse. That's one of the things I would like to see if he gets any game time or not. And like every time he's coming back from injuries, the coaches and the media says that he's in great shape, he's ready to come back. But the reality gives us a different outlook towards that. I would actually like to see that under Pintus, has that changed? Is he actually ready? That is something I would be keen to see. And the other thing is Miguel. I think because like obviously Marcelo, again, like no matter how bad he plays, I absolutely love this guy. I have no issues with him being the team captain. I think he is the captain because he deserves it. He has been such a legend for this club. But it could be like a blessing in hindsight or a blessing in disguise for Real Madrid overall as a team, as unfortunate as it sounds that we're missing Marcelo because of injuries. Because if Miguel can string a few good performances here, I think that would make it way more difficult on Ancelotti to start Marcelo when he comes back.
I agree.
And at this stage, Marcelo can stay as a dressing room presence. He can stay as the team captain. But this is not new at Real Madrid that the first captain is sitting on the bench. I think it is for the betterment of the team. That is how we should take this season, because Marcelo's performances are simply not good enough to compete at this level at the moment. So I'll be really looking forward to watch Miguel tomorrow and the next games where he plays. And if he can string a few performances here, I think it'll be better for the team.
Yeah, and I'd especially be interested to see if he gets into a positional battle with Ferland Mendy, with Mendy asking for a new contract on higher wages and things like that. And last year I would have said Ferland Mendy is indisposable from this team. But now with Miguel coming onto the fold, I mean, I don't know anymore. I mean, Ferland Mendy is obviously fantastic and he's a major defensive asset, but I don't know. We could have another Sergio Reguilón on our hands. I mean,
yeah, and also like one thing about Ancelotti is once he finds a starting lineup, he wouldn't change it for anything. If you remember for the 2013-14 season, once he started to play Fabio Coentrão, he even benched Marcelo. Fabio Coentrão started the final of the Champions League. Marcelo only came in at the 55th minute. So once if Ancelotti sees that, okay, Miguel is doing what he's supposed to do, Ferland Mendy might well be benched, and I wouldn't mind that. Actually, I love Miguel too. This is an exciting prospect, and for the love of God, for once, I would like to see these guys like the Miguels, Hakimis, Reguilons. They just keep leaving. I would just like to have one of them at the club for once. All right, Charlie, we'll end on the note by getting a prediction for tomorrow's game from you. There is another weird superstition about me. I don't predict games. My record of predicting games is very bad. The last time I predicted a Real Madrid game, I think they lost 4-0. So that was the last time I think it was the Atletico game under Ancelotti. It was a devastating experience the last time I predicted a Real Madrid game. So I would like to know your prediction though.
I think 2-1 Real Madrid. Goals from Jose Lu for Alaves, Gareth Bale, and Benzema coming off the bench. I think that's my prediction. And probably we go down early too.
Oh, okay. So no relaxed games from the beginning of the season.
No, that's too much for us to ask.
I agree, man. All right, Charlie, this was a wonderful preview. I had so much fun doing this. For the fans of the Es Una Final podcast and the Madrid Betar podcast channel, Charlie and I plan on doing this throughout the season. Hopefully, we get to do this before every game, trying to bring you all the nooks and crannies and everything of the games that are going to be playing. We're going to do a Bengali version. I'm going to do a Bengali version with the other editors of Madrid Betar on live on Facebook tomorrow. Stay tuned to watch that as well. But hope you enjoyed the episode. Do follow us on Es Una Final Pod. We'll see you the next time, and take care.